Okay, Cathead Reynolds signing in. Uh, let's see, what did I want to talk about today? I want to talk about the self with a capital S. Uh, uh, the entirety of the self and how it relates to the ego. We know through mindfulness exercises of whatever we have. Oh, hi, Teata. Um, that that the ego is a made-up concept, and so I wrote this for starters. Let's see. The ego is formed out of trauma of a society that insists on a fixed identity. Many approaches have been created to dismantle this structure. So then I wanted to start with Genesis. Genesis P. Orge was interested in the cut-ups that William S. Burroughs was doing. He would take a tape recorder and he would record bits of him reading the newspaper and watching the news and listening to music and rambling, and and this was his process for coming to his writing. Genesis met him through the mail and thought this was terribly fascinating. And so him and a group of people decided to do this to themselves, to cut up their own identity. He said a couple people went insane. So a trying practice to try to accomplish this. But they would be a different person every day. Today, you're like this. Today, I'm like this. Today, my name is this, etc. But eventually, you go through all these different states. I mean, this is what we do when we invoke, or if you're meditating on a particular deity or enlightened being. You're contacting a part of your personality that can relate with that. Anyway, he, she did this, and I believe that it liberated them into awakeness, forever awake. I wanted to mention some other people. Crowley, well, he said invoke often, first off, so we know. Through that, you're going to contact all kinds of deities, and they're going to come through you. That's what that means to invoke. But he also changed his rings and things like that, and would take on totally different personalities, different political views and everything, while he was wearing different rings, different items. And I think this was also a way to break down that preconditioned self that can't see beyond this. Probably what inspired Robert Anton Wilson to create Discordianism, this whole sort of thinking. Also, Gurdjieff, who wore disguises, and apparently they were bad disguises, and he wanted to jar the person about who he was by doing this. And then I come to Butler. In feminism, we now know that gender is performative, but I think this starts to call into question most behavior we have in society. Is what's so liberating about it, is then that means all the roles we play and the self-imposed rigidity to ourselves of what we can do within the society is entirely made up. And the more we've learned to cut up our own personality or see it as an illusion or a disguise or whatever we do with that, we start to come to a place of wholeness where we can access these different modes of being, whether they be supposedly masculine or supposedly feminine, or anything else really, politically, religiously, whatever impositions we put on ourselves as an identity. So I wanted to end with all aspects of the psyche that are excluded by the ego become limitations in the person to access information from life experience. What I mean by this is all the people we meet, all the experiences we have, if we've narrowed down what we think of as ourself, we will only be able to adopt so much of that information. Uh, the more we realize how similar we are, everyone. Uh, uh, Being a they is not some sort of mandatory thing for anyone. I happen to consider myself a they. But I think non-binary thinking in general is very healthy. You see it in Buddhism, Discordianism somewhat, and I almost forgot to mention Thunder Perfect Mind, a great meditation, and also used all meditations of Babylon are to, in a certain sense, to cross the abyss, to overcome Corn Zone and the ideas of limitation through identification. Actually, there's some sort of bliss in just the opposite, and realizing you can be anything. Beyond that, then you just have to find out who your true self is. But I think you'll have a lot more access to it if first you break down the limited self. This is my personal opinion. I'm just bringing this to you. If it helps anybody, that's wonderful. 93s, may you have your true will. Cat Army, peace and love. And I see a lot of ways people can relate, you know, that are profound enough to end some of this separation and violence that humans have towards each other. I'll end with that.